Welcome back, everyone, to the Morphing Tower podcast. I wanted to start off this episode by reading a memo from, this is from the Resource Management Division. And it says this: "It has come to our attention that some employees here at the office have been stealing spools of company Christmas lights from the supply closets. While we have been informed that this theft is being done in order to help navigate the building, we must ask that any would-be Christmas light thieves cease. The well-meaning employees on the 34th floor crisscrossed so many lights that they've created a dangerous tripping hazard and still have no idea where they are. If you get lost, please use the provided company terminals to contact the help desk. Someone should be able to assist you in finding your desk. Sincerely, the Resource Management Division." Which, gosh, it's just so great to know that other people on other floors of this building also have no idea what's going on. You know, every once in a while, it just feels like you're walking that road alone. But no, everyone else is also losing their minds and using Christmas lights as some sort of a sick, twisted method of finding their way through this building. I am joined today by a YouTuber that I just recently came across within the last 2 to 3 weeks, and possibly one of the most just wholesome YouTubers I've come across over the years of watching YouTube. I'm joined by BlueeKatieBug. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And we are standing in, what exactly is this place?
Well, I believe this is my room, at least so I'm told. I hope I get to stay here. It's got lots of lights and a fridge full of tofu and comfy beanbags.
Oh, nice. I was wondering. It is a very, very cozy room. I was just curious because I could have sworn that this door, the door that I opened to get in here, was the door that leads to the stairway. But it's the weirdest thing. When I looked out the window, I could have sworn that this room just sort of floated up and then sort of connected to the side of the building like a Lego block. It was the weirdest thing. So, yeah, glad you're here.
Me too. I kind of just floated up with it, so we're going with this.
Yeah, I guess you work here now. I guess that's how that works.
Yay! Well, I can't find a way out, and the Christmas lights aren't helping anything, so...
Yeah, I guess you just put your room in reverse, I guess. I don't know how that works. To start things off, I was doing a cursory check on the terminal, looking at your channel stats. This was a while ago, and I was thinking about people I thought would be fun to have on the podcast. And something I only noticed right before hitting the record button while I was just perusing some of this information. Your channel has only been around for a little over a year.
Yeah.
And you are currently, again, I don't want to make too much out of it or anything like that, but in the span of a year, you're currently sitting at 286 subscribers, which, first of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
And second of all, it's not so much a situation of oh my gosh, how, or why. I think it's fairly obvious. It's more so I'm happy that other people have been able to find your channel. And so the first thing I wanted to ask is relatively simple, but why did you start making videos?
So I think there are a lot of reasons why, but one of the biggest was that throughout college I was going through a lot of changing my major, and I wasn't quite sure where I was going to land, and I didn't have a ton of friends around at the time. And one of the only things I felt I had to fall back on in all of this chaos was actually a Let's Play channel. It's called Playframe, and I think everyone should look it up because it's really good. It's also kind of a smaller scale, but it's still quite large. But it's run by a game animator named Dan Floyd. And I said, I felt like I didn't have a ton of people to talk to at the time, but I knew I could always return to a friendly voice through Dan Floyd's channel. You know, it felt like hanging out with a friend every time I sat down with one of his videos. And, later on, I started to kind of settle into more of my major in school and my niche and figure out my job and things like that. But still in the back of my head, I just had this thought man, it would be really cool if I could do that for someone else. And you even mentioned my channel feels very wholesome, which makes me happy because that's exactly what I'm going for. I want to be that friendly voice, that someone who will play video games with someone else at the end of the night.
Yeah, and I think you captured that so well. It's cool that you approached it from like, this is what I had and I want somebody else to have that. Like, of all of the motivations to go about starting a YouTube channel, that's probably one of my favorite, because I've heard that like I've had conversations with people where that's the approach that they took, of like their inspiration was, well, this was really helpful to me, maybe this will help someone else if I also do this. And like, that's such a like a cool motivation. Like, it's so good. And I think there's a whole lot of just like fakeness in our world today, and I feel like a lot of people just need something that is authentic and is just sort of real and
really
and wholesome, you know? I think it's just like it's refreshing. I'm trying to gravitate more towards channels like yours, in the sense that, and I've mentioned this before talking with people who like review things, or there's certain channels on YouTube. It is so easy to hate things. It is so easy. Like, that is an easy thing to do. It is not difficult. Nobody has to teach you how to hate things.
No.
But like, enjoying things, like legitimately just enjoying something, is just so like simple, but it's like, it's a lost art. And I feel like you excel at that on your channel.
Thank you. I mean, a big part of why I started the channel, as well as wanting that for someone else, is just I genuinely adore video games, and I feel like sometimes, I mean, obviously, if that was not clear, but I mean, I don't know. I feel like sometimes video games get a bad rap. I have kind of an older father-in-law, and I'm pretty sure he's convinced that all I do is play like beat 'em up shooter games in the basement all day. I don't know. And really, I'm playing like Animal Crossing.
Right.
Or, like,
he thinks you're hitting 360 no scopes. Meanwhile,
yeah,
you're actually
nothing
like,
wrong with that. But
right. You're fishing in Animal Crossing.
yeah, so I'd love to kind of give a better impression of, you know, the variety of video games that are out there, and kind of, you know, just a nice thing for many people to experience, because I love these stories and experiences, and I'd love to share them with other people.
Yeah, I was gonna talk about like the selection of games that you've played so far on the channel.
Yeah.
Like, I really appreciated the fact that, so I watched I watched through the Super Mario Galaxy playthrough, which was phenomenal. And the whole
Thank
time I
you.
was watching it, I was like, this is one of the earliest Let's Plays that she has on the channel. Her channel's only been around for like a year, and the quality of the video, quality of the footage, but also like how you were keeping the commentary up, your general skill at the game, and then also like the edits. I was like, this is professional stuff. Like,
Thank you.
It's very, very good, and like easy watching is like the best way I can describe it. But
That's
you know, you went from
wonderful.
Super Mario Galaxy, and then I watched you play Marvel Mania, and I was like, what the heck is Marvel Mania? And I actually really liked that, was because the whole time I was like, I have never heard of this game in my life. No idea what it was. But the fact that you have a connection to it, that was the reason why I wanted to give the playthrough a watch. It's like, well, if she like has a fond memory of this game, a fond connection for it, the same way that she had for Super Mario Galaxy, then this playthrough is going to be really fun to watch, because I know that the person I'm watching is engaged and interacting with the game, and they're not playing it out of obligation. Like, Marvel Mania is not like a popular game to do a Let's Play of. But
By
I
no
really,
means.
yeah, but at the same time, is like, that doesn't matter, because, and this is something that I strive for, you know, this is what I want to hit, like with some of the gaming stuff that I've done in the past, is I want to get to a place where people would watch me play anything based solely on like the vested trust that they have in me to like be authentic, and it doesn't matter what I'm playing. The game is sort of an afterthought. I don't want it to be the reverse, you know, for maybe pulling viewers in originally. Maybe it's a little bit of that, of, ooh, I'm playing this game, that's great. But ultimately, it's like I would want people to watch if I was playing a super old Command and Conquer game that I watched my dad play when I was a kid, like regardless of anything else. So, and I feel like you have already captured that very well.
Thank you. That is wonderful to know. I know I've had a lot of things to consider just, just barely starting up a channel. And one of the things I talk a lot about with my husband is like, should I go for variety or should I go more for like a general feel? Like, should I go for what people want to see and what's popular?
Mm.
Or should I stay true to my own sense of like what I want my channel to be? And I've been leaning much more heavily in that direction. So it's good to know that's working.
I think it helps set the tone. I feel like a lot of creators on YouTube specifically, they sort of have to, they work backwards. What they end up doing is they start their channel and they play all the big games on release when the games are like super buggy or like when it's very new and they hit that algorithm. That's great, that's fine. And then sometimes I feel like that's not necessarily what they want to play. Like you
Yeah,
can just
but
tell
get
sometimes.
stuck in there.
Yeah, you just get, because now that is the expectation of what your channel is oh,
Yeah.
you're a channel that plays the newest games. And there's nothing wrong with that. But like if you're not passionate about those games, if you have no connection to those franchises, I don't think I would enjoy watching somebody play one of those games that they're not passionate about playing.
Right. And I wondered too if it was maybe the best move to start with some of my favorite games first, while I know my quality or my consistency would still be somewhat lacking in some respects. But I just kind of figured I was like, well, I want to set the tone, I want people to know what to expect.
Yeah. And I think that was the
Yeah.
wise choice because like I
Thank
said,
you.
I would much rather watch somebody play whatever game they want, whatever they're passionate about, instead of,
Mhm.
well, I don't know. It's just the other thing of like, how many YouTubers are you subscribed to that are all going to play the same game, like on release? You know what I mean? It's like, I don't need that. I would rather, like, you can have one or two of those channels. That's fine. But like, I'm more interested in the off the beaten path, like games from people who are passionate about those games and know a lot about them. Like your connection to like older Nintendo Wii stuff is like,
Mhm.
that's like, that was my first console. Like that was our family's first console. Like
Yeah.
there is literal footage of our family at Christmas time unboxing the Wii
Aw.
and all of us collectively losing our minds.
Yeah. Well, that was my first console too, so I'm definitely in the same boat where like that can just catch an edge of like extra passion and like some sort of connection. Yeah.
It also just like the insights that you're able to bring to your playthrough as well.
Ah.
Even just like reminiscing about like, oh, when I was a kid this level was impossible, like stuff like that. You don't get that with games that are fresh that are just new, where you
Yeah.
don't really have any connection to it whatsoever. Oh my gosh, do you have this? I need to ask you this. So as somebody
Oh.
who plays games,
Uh-huh.
do you ever revisit games that you played when you were a kid and you sucked at, and then you realize the problem, like you play it as an adult and you're like, why did I struggle with this at all? All I had to do was read this, like the tutorial thing on the screen and I'm fine.
Oh my gosh, all the time. I feel like I have two ends of the spectrum. There's like the one where I have this one Disney princess game. I mention it in a Kingdom Hearts episode, and I've low-key debated like just throwing one episode of this game up there because it's such a bizarre game. But it's this Disney princess game with like the freakiest looking little enemies ever, and they scared the crap out of me as a child, but I kept playing. I don't know why. And I revisited that game, years later with my sister when I was like, just starting university, and it was way easier. And I was like, oh, like this level, I remember as like the Snow White world is super hard. And then I played it, and it was fine. I was like, okay, so like I guess the problem was with me. And then the other end of the spectrum is I have Kingdom Hearts Recoded on my little Nintendo DS. And I
Okay.
came back to that one, and that one's still hard. That one's very difficult, so.
Some things some things aren't your fault, but like even just
Yeah.
like simple level layout where it's like the level layout is extremely linear and you're like, how did I get lost as a kid? It's very clear you go this way.
Yeah, walking in little circles or hitting the same few boxes that don't break or something.
Yeah, it was like,
Yes.
why did I struggle with this so much? It was, I had that with like Lego Star Wars Complete Saga
Oh
and
man,
the
yeah.
original Lego Indiana Jones game, where just like I would get turned around and be like, what am I supposed to do? And then I replayed them recently. It's like, just follow the flow of the level design. Just keep going. Like, it's not that difficult. It's laid out so that way you
Yeah.
can't get lost.
Just keep walking and eventually you're gonna find something new.
You're gonna find something.
Yes.
All right. So since you had a Wii as let's see, your first console, you said?
I think that, well, with the exception of, did you ever have those little leapfrog little game consoles growing up? They were like plastic and, well, okay, my first real game console, yes, that it was a Wii.
Oh, are you talking about like the book things you open up and had the interactive pens?
Oh my
Leapfrog
gosh.
or
That was the company, but
or Leap Pad. That's what they were called, I think.
yes. Oh my gosh, yes. And they had all the like Disney games on them.
Yeah,
And
you insert the cartridge and then it
yeah,
knows based on that, and then you could turn the pages in the book and then click on stuff with the pen, and it was
think
like
that was the one.
interactive.
Yeah, I think technically that was my first video game.
Hardcore gamer. I played the Leap Pad.
You're only a real gamer if you played the Leap. No, I think it was the Nintendo Wii and Nintendo DS. They both entered my life, I think, at about the same time.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Thanks.
I loved Wii Sports Resort,
Oh man.
the island. I want to go there today.
Yes, Woohoo
Immediately.
Island.
Yes.
Yes. Well, tell you what, have you ever played Go Vacation?
No,
Have you
what's
heard of
that?
it came out for the Wii. It's basically like a Wii Sports Resort knockoff, but it's open world. You can actually like wander around and like
Ooh.
change your outfit, and like I discovered it I think this past summer, and for like an entire day straight I just sat on the couch with my husband and the two of us just like jumped over people on like four-wheelers all day long. It's a good time. It's a blast. That one is a great title for the Wii, and so is Wii Sports Resort.
Oh, okay. So I just did a quick look up on the terminal. This changes everything, and I need to look into this right now. Gmod apparently has a Woohoo Island map,
Oh.
so you could potentially sort of free roam the Isle of Woohoo in Gmod. It's probably not 1-to-1, but like based on the pictures, it looks pretty close.
Wow, that's interesting. I had never thought to look up like if anyone had modded some sort of interactable version of Woohoo Island.
That whole aesthetic is so much fun, which is why during your Super Mario Galaxy playthrough, when you were going to all like the tropical planets, I was like, oh my gosh, you have got to play Super Mario Sunshine.
Yes. For the very limited window it was available for digital purchase, I got it. So I have Sunshine too, and I very much considered playing that one.
So, fun fact, I played the Mario like 3D games in reverse order, completely by accident. So I played
Really?
Galaxy when I was a kid, beat the game, and I did play a little bit of Sunshine, but I couldn't get past the first 20 minutes. And for the most humiliating reason, but I can't say it because it'll spoil something if you haven't played Sunshine. But I basically played them in reverse order, because then I went back and played 64 after that. So I literally did like the reverse. I played them backwards.
That's awesome. Well, I don't blame you for getting stuck in Sunshine. I've busted open that game once or twice, and it is hard. It's not an easy game.
It is like it totally makes sense as a bridge between 64 and Galaxy. Like, I think Galaxy's my
Yes.
favorite, and Galaxy 2 is good, but it's essentially just bonus levels. Like, it doesn't have the same
Yeah.
story going on as the first game, like everything with Rosalina and the storybooks. Like, I don't think any other game has ever come close to replicating that.
Oh man, no, that's just the best.
So, looking at the future of what you're making, like, is there any series that you're looking to do? Because there's one thing that I've seen on the channel. I haven't actually gotten a chance to actually watch them yet.
Yeah.
But you do like longer form. Are they streams or just longer videos that you don't cut up?
Yeah, I was gonna say you must be talking about Let's Chill. Yeah, so that is another idea that was kind of rattling around in the back of my head when I started all this up. Because I was thinking, I wanted to do a Let's Play channel. That I decided was going to be kind of my, I don't know if MO is the right term to use. Um, but I also had kind of this idea of like, well, I love watching people play games, and also there was a period of my life where I kind of like went back to live at home for a minute, and I have two younger sisters who are twins, and they were around the house a lot, and they would just kind of watch me playing the games,
Hmm.
and they would really enjoy just kind of zoning out and like watching it. And I kind of thought, I was like, well, I'd actually love to, like, while I'm doing homework or while I'm drawing or something, if I could just put up on a screen like somebody playing Animal Crossing, or somebody playing like, I have an unfortunate soft spot for Genshin Impact, and it was like I'd love to just watch someone play it. And no one had done that. Like, I scoured the internet and I couldn't find something that was exactly that. I found a lot of things that were close, but no one just sitting down to record a little bit of footage. Um, and at first I was a little scared. I was like, is this 'cause copyright? But I did some more digging and I was like, no, I don't think it is. So that was kind of my inspiration for starting Let's Chill, and that's more of a side thing, but something I really enjoy doing. I even kind of watch my own videos in the background now because someone has recorded that and put it up, and I can have a game playing in the background as if someone was in the room playing with me, but we could both be doing our separate activities.
Yeah. No, I think it's a really cool idea.
Thank you.
I was going to ask, so we can talk about the drawing too, because I do want to talk about the drawing.
Oh,
Um,
yes.
but within, let's say, within the past year, since, well, this is roughly how long you've been doing this, what have you
Mhm.
learned?
What have I learned? I've learned a lot. So basically, it has technically been a year since I brought my channel into existence. I got the little banner up like, happy birthday, your channel. And I was like, oh, yay. But I didn't actually upload anything until it was the fall. I believe it was in September. Um, because I knew I'd have a lot to learn when I started this. So what I did is I recorded, and I don't know if this is ever going to see the public eye, I recorded half of a Let's Play of Pokemon Sword and Shield.
Okay.
Just kind of for my eyes only, just to get a feel for the kind of equipment I would need, how the commentary would kind of work and how to keep that flowing, and how to deal with like technical issues, which, oh boy, I dealt with a lot. I know you and I were chatting a little bit before we started
Yeah.
recording the
Good
episode.
old technical problems.
Yes, and I have had entire episodes completely cease to exist
Ugh, it's
before they
so,
could save. Yes.
ugh, it hurts. It hurts.
Yeah, and I've also had episodes where actually these ones were going up online. This was part of my Kingdom Hearts series, where I was in the middle of the jungle, in the like Tarzan world of the game, which is my least favorite portion of probably the entire series. And there was so much grain to the picture that I had to go back and load like several saves beforehand and
Oh.
re-record everything because just technical issues. So I've had to learn a lot about my computer and my machines and how everything works in tandem with each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I've learned a lot about that. I've learned a lot about how to balance responding to what people want to see with what I want to do.
Yeah.
Um, and I think I've just learned that this is something I'm very passionate about, and I think no matter how many people continue to watch or how big my channel gets, if it stays super small forever, I think this is something I want to continue to do just because I love seeing how happy it can make other people, and it makes me very happy too.
Yeah. That's really, really cool. And
Thanks.
going along with that, like over the course of time while you've been making these videos, I know that you make the thumbnail art. Tell me about
Yeah.
the art. Like where does that start from? Like how long have you been drawing? Like where did all
Oh,
that come from?
yeah. Well, okay. So I mean, clearly I'm not any kind of professional there with the artwork, but growing up I would doodle a lot, and um, I was actually going to study some game development, game animation, And I am still studying a bit of that online, but I also started leaning a little bit more heavily into art lately, just because I started to realize I actually really love this. So what started out as kind of a hobby has developed in the past, I think, just 3 or 4 years into something a little bit more that I want to actually start refining and honing that skill.
Yeah. Well, I commend you for it because it like the whole aesthetic and like vibe of your channel, the fact that you add that personal touch of adding those illustrations like yourself is super super cool. For nothing else, it like helps your videos stand apart from a lot of other like let's play channels is the fact that you do the
Yeah.
artwork yourself.
A big detail I neglected to mention too is that the channel that stood for my inspiration for a lot of this playframe, he is a game animator professionally. I think I may have mentioned that. But he hand draws all of his channel art as well. He does a new avatar for each Let's Play, and he has this big, beautiful channel banner, and it all just looks really polished and really nice. And I was thinking, I'm not as good at art as he is, but that was just something I would absolutely love to do with my videos. And so I was like, you know what? I'll go for it. I'll get better as I go.
Well, I think that's so cool, and that's something that I've seen like with a lot of other creative people. I've
Hmm.
mentioned this before on the podcast. Like something that's so cool about sort of living in that creative space is that one passion often bleeds into other things. Like you making these Let's Play videos sort of helped open the door for your illustrations, where like now you're practicing that more, and it's like, oh, I have to
Yeah.
draw these for these thumbnails and like draw my avatar in this game and in this costume, and like it gave you an extra challenge, and the fact that you took that on and made that a part of what you were doing is so so cool because I just don't think people understand like when you take on creative projects oftentimes it also it paves the way for a lot of other creative stuff to happen as well like if you let it.
Yeah.
And I think it's really cool that you took that on yourself as well.
Thank you. Well, I mean, like you said, one thing just kind of leads to another, and I was thinking there are so many things that I've enjoyed throughout my life, such as video editing and gaming and drawing, and even I used to study a lot of music as well. And so I can kind of go through as we're playing and kind of dig into some soundtrack details and things like that, just to kind of a surface level degree and implement all of that into, something that just feels very me and feels very, very creative and fun to be a part of.
Oh, I love all the outro music that you pick for the playthrough so far has
Thank
been like
you.
so nice. So so about the music stuff. Tell me like
Yeah.
what sort of music are you into?
Oh, okay. Well, so that's a whole other rabbit hole. I think I've dug into this in some of my videos before. But I thought growing up I was going to be a performer. And I actually made it to the point where when I first started school, like I said, I was changing majors. It's because I started out in musical theater
Oh, wow.
of all things, I know. And I actually ended up studying in Manhattan, New York for a
Whoa.
while until COVID hit. But I was very serious about performing. And then COVID hit and performance got a lot harder and everything just kind of got uprooted, and I started kind of looking to my other interests and thinking about if theater was really what I wanted to do after all, and I ended up kind of stumbling along towards, game design and illustration. Yeah, so I am a vocalist, but I've also studied a lot of music composition. I play piano, and I don't know, I just love music theory and nerdy sort of gritty stuff like that.
This is my favorite freaking thing about this podcast is every time I have people on, I swear, like I really try not to narrow down, oh, this person does one thing. Let's talk about that one thing. Oh no, you get people talking, like you get creative people talking, and it's just like, oh, I do this. Oh yeah, I also play piano. And it's like, whoa, wait a minute. That's awesome.
Thank you. Well, I mean, I suppose, people have multiple facets to them. So I suppose if someone's creative and they have the capability to use lots of different creative skills, even the ones they're not so good at, they're gonna go ham.
What's some of your favorite music to listen to? Like if you're just hanging out, just going through your day, what are you listening
Yeah.
to?
Oh my gosh, my music taste is so weird. uh, a lot of video game music,
Okay.
obviously.
Yeah.
Um, I like choral music. I listen to some choral and some classical music. And then there's like a little sprinkling of like indie rock, and there's a little
Okay.
K-pop in there, and what else do I listen to? Really just whatever catches my fancy at the time. But it's all primarily instrumental stuff. Have you heard of Louis Zong?
No.
Louis Zong is an artist. He does mostly instrumental stuff. But my goodness, there's some songs he writes. I just found him on YouTube. I think this is just what he does kind of as a hobby. But some of my favorite songs of his include I Hope Your Cow Rolls Down a Hill and I'm a Very Good Wizard and just the randomest stuff, but it's incredibly well written and he's got a great voice and it's just tons of fun to listen to.
I discovered my love of like instrumental stuff or just
Yeah.
stuff that like with no words. I think it was years back. It was when I first got a Pandora account.
Oh, that would do.
The dark days. All I know is so I would some of my favorite stations to listen to were like movie soundtrack playlists.
Mm-hmm.
Or like the Tron soundtrack by Daft Punk. Like
Oh,
I was way
yes.
into scores, and that was
Okay.
honestly what got me like more into listening to music was like usually stuff with no lyrics, but it was just like really energetic, oftentimes very orchestral, a lot of instruments. I like words in my songs every once in a while, but I will say that like when I'm actively doing something else, I suppose it all has to do with what I'm doing at the time. If I'm studying,
Mhm.
if I'm driving somewhere, or if I'm like, if I'm at work or whatever, sometimes I just like a little instrumental track. I don't need lyrics. Like sometimes, like some of my favorite music to listen to is music that makes me sort of feel like a protagonist. It's like music
There,
that sort of
yeah.
goes with anything. It's like whatever I'm doing while this music is playing, it seems so like intentional and planned out, like it was meant to be that way, you know?
Yes, I think I do know the feeling you're talking about where you're kind of driving around and you've got like the sun setting and some song about like the future is coming and you're just like, okay, like, or I don't know. And then I have moments where my head's in the music and I'm not in the moment at all. And I'll be listening to like something intense like One Winged Angel from Final Fantasy VII while I'm just like driving around and it's like super serene outside. My husband says it stresses him out a lot when I do that because he feels like he should start driving faster or something.
Oh, you have so like some of the music from Baby Driver, the movie. I have to like turn. I can't listen to some of those tracks when I'm going on like a 25-mile-an-hour road. Like I literally can't do it because I will start to speed completely on accident. I'll look back down at the speedometer. I'm like, whoa, slow down.
Oh
I am
my
going
gosh,
way
that's
too fast.
amazing.
Good music is powerful stuff.
It is. It can really connect with you for better or for worse.
Very true. I looked up
amazing.
earlier today. I was just like, I don't even remember why. I was like, is there such a thing as a blue ladybug? And sure enough,
Oh,
there is. Like,
is there really?
so basically, I went down a whole thing. I looked it up, and essentially, it's not a different species of ladybug. It's literally, there are just some mutations of like color difference in some ladybugs, just regular ladybugs. You can get like all different colors, but they're just regular ladybugs.
What on this earth? I feel like I should have known this being BlueEKatieBug, but there's
Well,
no way.
it was really difficult because I was like, some of these images don't look real, and so it's just like, is this
No.
Photoshop or whatever the heck? But here, I'll pull one up in the
Oh,
terminal here.
please. I just thought it was like, you know how there's like blue raspberry, like, but there's not blue raspberry.
Yeah, exactly. Pulling it up on the terminal here, it's literally a blue ladybug. It's just
Oh
the
my
coloration.
goodness. Yes, and some people claim that really happens. That just sometimes you accidentally get a blue one.
I guess. I think it's just super rare. Like there can just be
Wow.
different colored ladybugs, and I didn't know this. I was just like, I had no idea about that because there's another ladybug, or it's kind of like a ladybug. It's it's in Australia, and it's called the steel blue ladybird, and
Steel blue.
it doesn't look like a ladybug except for the shape. It's like chrome looking.
Oh,
It's
wow.
it looks really cool, but I was just like, ironically, it sort of reminds me of like a Super Mario Galaxy enemy. But I was just
That
like,
really does look like something you would fight. Yeah, like that looks like the kind of thing where you'd have to like get it to flip over and then its like belly is vulnerable or something because it does
yes,
not look like
yeah,
you're gonna hit that shell.
exactly. You are exactly right. But yeah, so apparently blue ladybugs totally exist.
Wow, that is good to know. I mean, I had a lot of ladybugs around my house growing up, and sometimes I'd see like, oh, that one looks more orange, or that one's like kind of yellow, but blue. I I'm glad I know this now. I feel like I've grown as a content creator.
Dude, I felt so bad growing up. My youngest sister, terrified of ladybugs.
Oh
Like
no.
complete irrational fear of ladybugs, and for some reason like they would just get them in their room all the time for no reason. Like
Oh.
they never would go into anyone else's room. It was always their room. It was like,
As if
why?
the ladybugs were like targeting your
Yeah,
sister.
they knew it was a whole plot. It was a plot and a
Maybe,
half.
oh man, maybe it's some kind of like, what's that called? Immersion therapy, where you're
Oh
trying to
yeah.
like desensitize.
Exactly.
I know you have been interviewing me, but I'm curious, since you mentioned you have a gaming channel, what kind of games do you play?
Oh gosh. Well, so basically, the channel that I upload gaming stuff to originally was the place that I uploaded all of the video projects that I filmed with my friends in middle school and high school. That was originally why the
Oh.
channel existed in the first place. So you can find the oldest videos on the channel are, um, I mean, let's just call it what they are. It's just art. It's just pure art. Very
I
intelligent.
see.
They all totally had a
Uh,
script and weren't completely made up on the spot.
I mean, I'm having some flashbacks of like doing this with my friends coming to mind, and I think like one of these movies we had was called Oof Brand Pirates, and it was just like it was like a trailer for a movie. It wasn't even the project, and it was completely random. I'd love to see some of this stuff.
Oh boy, it's interesting. The I sort of play all sorts of things, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm in that way. I think um we see eye to eye on that sort of thing of just like playing whatever we want.
Yeah.
I'll play a little bit of everything.
Hey, that's great.
One of my proudest achievements was like the first long form playthrough I did went for 110 episodes.
Wow.
And it's a little game called Fate the Traitor Soul, and it's a PC game. It's like a dungeon crawler. And essentially I went back because I was like, oh, I'm nostalgic for this game, I'll play this game. And then I found out that I had been playing it wrong my entire life, and I had never
No.
so at the beginning of the game, you start in like this temple place that serves as like a nexus. Like you can go to other like dungeon areas, and I would always go to like the
Okay.
same starting area, and I could never remember how to get back to the nexus world. And
Oh.
the first world is completely optional because it's an Easter egg, because it's the former game's dungeon. I didn't know this.
Oh.
So I would just go to the first world I saw,
Oh
never
no.
go back to the nexus, didn't know that there was an actual story. Like I didn't know that
Uh-huh.
there was an actual like objective in each of the dungeons you go to. You have to go to a certain level and defeat a certain enemy. I didn't know this. So I discovered that while I was playing through the series. But the thing that I'm most proud of about that playthrough, something that I really like it. I love characters. I love characters, character design. Any game that has like a character creator, I will stay on that that character
Oh
creation
my.
screen for
Right?
so long. I'm obsessed with it because even
Yes.
if the game itself, even if the gameplay, even if the story is extremely excruciatingly linear, if I got to create the character, it changes everything for me. Like because I know that my playthrough is like technically different than everyone else's for no other reason than
Yeah.
like I created the character. But something that I do on my channel whenever I have a game that has a protagonist that I create is I will talk to my protagonist during the videos and then subtitle their speech back to me.
Oh, that's so clever. I had never thought of doing something like that.
It's definitely weird, and I think it's caught some viewers completely off guard. But
It's
basically,
unique, though.
it is unique, and it was basically like a way for the characters to give me their lore instead of me saying this character does this or believes this or whatever the heck. It's like I can learn about the character like through the character talking to me as though I also don't know, so I can ask them questions, stuff like that. So I did that for Fate the Traitor Soul. But you know, I've played Sea of Thieves with my buddies.
There you go, yeah.
I played through a game called Supraland, which is like, do you know what a Metroidvania is?
Vaguely, yes.
So it is a 3D Metroidvania where
wow.
it is a sandbox game in the sense that the game takes place in a literal sandbox. So you're like a tiny little plastic toy, and everything's like to scale. And
oh wow.
The whole bragging right of the game is the fact that the world size is tiny compared with a lot of these AAA games that boast, oh, we have this giant open world map. But this game is special because it packs so much into that small area. And like a Metroidvania game, you know, you'll walk up to a wall and be like, oh, I can't double jump yet, so I can't scale this wall yet. I'll come back to this later. So like you can go wherever you want to, but you will be stopped until you get certain skills or abilities, and then you go back and visit those places again once you're ready and you have the tools you need. And so it's very open-ended. It's a lot of fun. But I played that one. I played The Outer Worlds, which is like a sort of a satire space adventure game. But I also played a game called Money Town, which was an old CD-ROM game about earning money. And so, like, it's a little bit of everything. And again, that's kind of the way, that's how I like to do it. I did a Minecraft SMP for a bit. That I did like a full season of. Sort of constructed a semi-story around it. There's technically plot going on. But like a little bit of everything. And that's the way I like doing it. I like hopping. I like Is it mean to say I like confusing what viewers I have? I do like to sort of hop back and forth. It's like, here's a title you're familiar with, and now I'm going to play something you've never heard of in a million years.
I was gonna say, there's no wonder you've been gravitating towards like my Marble Mania series or the less heard of games, because that you just listed off several games I've never heard of in my life. They sound so like zany and out there, but so fun.
Oh, that's my favorite. That's my favorite kind of stuff, is just like those hidden gems that just like don't get a lot of airtime.
Yes, honestly though, and even just earlier today before we sat down together at the terminal, I was playing this game that came out not long ago called Little Noah Shion of Paradise, and I had never heard of it, and it is so good though. And so I was thinking, like, maybe I need to put this one on the channel, because like just more people need to know about these like super niche but super fun games.
Yeah, I love that sort of stuff. And like another thing that's been really cool is some friends of mine, they've been guests on the podcast before, Mitch and Natalie. I've had them both on. They have a mutual friend who's a game developer, and they reached out to me a while ago, and they were like, hey, would you like give his game a try, basically, on your channel? And I was like, heck yeah. And what's really cool is when you have these smaller developers, they're like leaving comments underneath the videos. Like, I love that sort of interaction. And so like in the next couple years, what I really want to focus on is maybe do like one like indie developer like spotlight a month, like just an episode of like a game of someone who, like, I'm trying to get connected with more and more people. That's one of the benefits of doing this podcast. I've talked about it before ad nauseum on this podcast, that my dream is to be the guy who knows a guy. That's what I want to be. So it's just like, I basically want it to be so that way if anybody is developing a game, or like they know someone who's developing a game, like they know that I would totally be down to like give the game an honest try and like give my honest thoughts about it, but just go into it with a like, I don't know, I think it just would mean so much to me if I was a game developer and someone was willing to play my game. Like, I don't know what that experience would be like for the first time going onto YouTube, looking up my game, and seeing that somebody has like a let's play of it. That would
Yeah.
that would make my year.
That is truth. That would be unreal.
So you were talking about game development. Are you still like potentially thinking? Are you ever gonna make a game? You think?
Gosh, I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of falling back into another one of those times where I'm starting to, decide like, okay, well, I really like illustration, but I like game development, and now I'm starting to sort of get into this YouTube thing. Just kind of deciding where I'm going to land. So I'm not really sure. I'm definitely playing with at least just getting to know a lot more about development and things like that. But if that is ever a road I commit to going down, I'll be sure to reach out and let you give a game a try.
Well, something that I always like to ask. So here's a fun question. I've asked this
Okay.
before. I love asking this question because there's so many possible answers. If you
Oh.
had, if money were no object, and you could go yourself and maybe with a couple other people, like 4 to 5 other people, go to any place, but have it completely emptied out of people. You have it the entire place to yourself for 24 hours. It could be literally any place.
Any
Could be a
place.
stadium. It could be anything. Like where would you go?
My first childish impulse is to say Disneyland. Just cause like
Good answer. Good answer. I feel
Well,
like people would agree.
I mean, I feel like I should be coming up with something like a little cooler than that, but I'm thinking like not only could I like go ride everything a million times and like no one would get in my way, right? But like
The fastest pass.
the fastest of all passes, yeah. But like I could walk through some of the like the dark rides.
I didn't even think about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I have like this soft spot for the dark rides because I've always had this sort of like it's somewhere in between a phobia and a fascination of like audio animatronics, but much more of a fascination, I think. And I'd love to just like turn off the cars but keep the ride running and just walk through and get a closer look at like how does this robot move? How does this one work? And like does this one have like a get a closer look at like the Pepper's Ghost thing that they do where they have like the mirrors and then they have animatronics above and then they use the mirrors and tricks of light to make it look like ghosts in front of you, even though the animatronics are stashed away somewhere else you can't see.
I
I
saw that on Rough Ruffman.
Yeah.
I know how it works.
Yes, see, that's yep, the Peppers Ghost. I'd love to just kind of like just poke around and just see like the inner workings of all that cool stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, totally. That's a good choice. Like specifically like poking around in the rides is
Yeah.
like such I love that answer. That's so good.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I think in when I did musical theater and when I do my YouTube videos, I think some weird thing I just get like odd amounts of delight from is being like I have seen this thing behind the scenes and I know how it works and therefore it is like that much cooler. Like my high school my senior year did a production of The Phantom of the Opera and I was lucky enough to get to play Christine, which was like unreal.
Whoa.
Yeah, it was challenging, and a huge production, like the whole town kind of chipped in on that one. But part of what I had to do is I had a quick change, and I had to also like steer the boat before said quick change. So I was like driving this boat through like fog, but I was pretending like I wasn't the one driving it, and I had to keep my hand hidden. And there was a day where I had to just drive the little boat in circles on the stage and then run behind the stage and do the quick change and then get back in the boat. Like it was
Dang.
It was an entire process.
Oh my gosh.
yeah,
that
but
sounds
that was
so
like-
difficult.
It was everything about that show is so difficult and it gobbled up so many hours of my life. But like that was also one of the coolest days of my life because I knew that like when people saw that, I knew how the trick was pulled off. I mean, I was the one pulling off the trick and making it work. So I knew like how is the boat moving? I'm the one driving it. How'd I change my dress so fast? Well, I drive the boat off stage and then I go behind the set and then I change my dress and then I come back out. And like just knowing how all of those background processes work is just something that like it just makes me absurdly happy. I don't even know why.
I was part of a it was a version of Best Christmas Pageant Ever.
Oh, I
It
know that one.
was so unbelievably bad because our leading lady at the time, I felt really bad for her. She had a lot of lines, but she skipped like half the play on accident.
That is nightmare fuel right there.
What our director was doing, she was essentially calling the scenes like calling an audible. She was like rearranging the structure of the play and being like, we're doing this scene, go. It was,
oh man,
we basically had the finale twice. It was so bad. It was so terrible. One of my cousins was supposed to play like a firefighter and was supposed to like come in from off like one of the wings, but his entrance was in the opposite wing from where he was, but there was no behind stage. There was no curtains. It was in like a church auditorium. So the only way for him to get to stage left was to run all the way around the outside of the auditorium.
oh my God.
And by the time he reached the other side, his scene had been cut. Like it just didn't happen.
That's terrible.
It was so awful, but it was so funny. Like him getting like suited up with his stupid fireman outfit with his plastic hat and just like sprinting.
Just
and then by the time he gets to the other side, it's like, well, that scene's not happening anymore.
Oh my gosh.
It was so terrible.
I swear, I've had like bad dreams with that kind of scenario, and then I wake up and I'm like, I'm so glad that wasn't real.
There were a couple instances where one of my sisters and I had to like save the play sounds so self-important. Save the momentum of the play, where like somebody forgot something. So I had one where somebody just like missed an entrance, and like I had to give them like an extra verbal cue to be like, this is the part where you come in now, basically.
Yes.
Or my favorite one was my younger brother. He was in a play version of Treasure Island, and he was Ben Gunn. And basically, like, Long John Silver and the pirates, they're looking at the map. They're like, oh, 30 paces this way. They walk off stage. And then my brother's, like, hunched behind, like, a rock or something like that. But they were supposed to walk back on stage, but they didn't walk back on stage. So Ben Gunn is just on the stage by himself in an awkward silence. So my brother, without missing a beat, just turns to the audience and just starts doing like an unhinged old man crazy dance. And just gets the whole crowd laughing, and then he ducks back behind the rock before they finally realize that they were supposed to walk back on. I was just like, that is impressive. Like, if you're able to think of that in the moment, that's impressive.
That is impressive. I can't say I've ever covered for anything that well. The closest I've had is during a dress rehearsal for a show. I had a solo, and I walked up to the front of the stage, and I I put my arms out and took a deep breath because I was about to start singing, and my skirt fell off. And
what?
Yes, well, and I had shorts on underneath it, so it wasn't like anything too crazy, but like it just fell off, and it was a dress rehearsal. So like I was okay. But I like a professional, I was told by my director later, a professional would have pulled up her skirt and kept going. I just had a giggle fit, and we had to stop the scene. It was just such good timing. The music stops, I put out my arms, I take a deep breath in, and down goes the skirt. So
that's what the dress rehearsals are for.
That's what they are for the dress when it falls off.
Yes. Yes. Bad dress rehearsal equals good performance. We all know this.
Right. And in the performance, I never had that happen, but oh boy.
Well, winding down our conversation here for this episode, first of all, thank you so much for being willing to be a guest on this podcast. It has been a pleasure getting to chat with you and talk about the stuff that you create. Obviously, all your socials and stuff will be linked below. But yeah, I just wanted to say thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I was honestly super delighted when I saw your invite. I got really excited because this is so much fun. Especially when I went through and watched a couple of your episodes of your podcast too. This is a lovely tower, and I'm very happy to be stuck here.
Well, hopefully your room is able to find its way back Mario Galaxy style. Hopefully it just sort of flies back to where you need to be so you can keep creating stuff. But that's going to do it for this episode of the podcast, everyone. Thank you all so much for listening, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.